Hello again, everyone, and welcome to the latest in our series of lockdown webcasts that we're bringing you from Travel Weekly to keep you all connected during this very, very challenging time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, today I'm joined by three specialist tour operators to find out how they have been coping in this period. So welcome, first of all, to Guy Novik, who is Chief Executive and Founder of USAirtours. Hello, and then also to Debbie Goffin, who is the Director of Sales and Marketing at Premier Holidays.
Hello.
And finally, Paul Cleary, who is the Chief Executive and owner of Caribtours. So welcome, everyone. Thank you for sparing the time. I know how busy you all are. I guess I just wanted to kick straight off with asking what the impact has been on each of your businesses, both in terms of, your actual operation, but also your teams as well. So maybe we'll start with you, Paul. Do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I think the impact has been profound in our sector, as it has been with everyone else I speak to. It feels like it's lasted about 2 years, but I think we're about 2.5 months into feeling the crisis. Our team is coping brilliantly well. 82% of our business comes to agents, so we've been working with those agents. The first challenge was repatriations. The first challenge was getting our head around the scale of our problem. Then it was repatriations, then it was rebooking, and then we are now still in that process of rebooking and feeling our way through, waiting like a lot of people in terms of further advice on when we're going to see some light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, a big impact, but an impact we were probably better suited to cope with than I'd realised before it happened.
Okay, and obviously you're Caribbean specialist, but you do now go to lots of other parts of the world, don't you, Paul? So has it been different with dealing with different destinations?
Yeah, the interesting thing is because we've come off the back of peak season for us, and we were going into a quieter time of year, albeit Easter was in the middle, and that was a big problem for all of us. So yeah, the majority of our summer business, who we're in dialogue with at the moment, is predominantly kind of luxury Greece and luxury Europe. So yeah, and we're learning how they are dealing with that in terms of the hotels and what have you, how they're dealing with it, maybe in a slightly different way to the Caribbean. But yeah, we're learning as we go. But yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll come back onto that. I'll be interested to talk to you about that in a second. But let's go to you, Debbie. What's the impact been for you?
I mean, as Paul said, it is absolutely massive, and I think everyone in travel has had so much experience dealing with crises. We've seen so many, so we've all got good crisis handling. But with every other crisis, you've always got an area of your business which is selling, and so you often divide the team into sort of crisis management and business continuity. But at the moment, everyone is in crisis management mode, and it's just going from one sort of crisis to the other. But I mean, as Paul said, the team is amazing. We've had some brilliant support from suppliers through the industry who've been absolutely amazing as well. And we're starting to spend a little bit more time now on what happens in the future. But the first sort of definitely, yeah, it does feel like 2 years. The first couple of weeks, it was really in full crisis mode as to handling repatriation and existing bookings. So yeah.
Okay, all right. And let's just get Guy's take then before we sort of move on to some of the specifics. What about for a US specialist, Guy? How's that been?
Well, and in the last 38 years, I thought I'd seen all the crises and probably put 9/11 as the biggest challenge that we had to deal with. And I reassured my team that I was well experienced in crisis management. and as we crept into this one, that they had nothing to worry about. And as each day moved and the goalposts moved with it, it became clear that this was going to be managing an entirely different crisis. Fortunately, the industry is well set up for home working anyway. About 20% of our staff work from home, and we got ahead of the lockdown. It wasn't difficult to work out it was coming, but by the time it was called, our staff were already working at home. And then just all the practical challenges that go with that. You know, some people have laptops, some people didn't. PCs put in Ubers. I mean, just, you know, all the kind of craziness just to try and get everything working. But everyone has adapted incredibly well. and I'll get it in first. The new normal is something that people are demonstrating that they can really adapt. As far as the US is concerned, which is obviously a huge market for us, although we about 20% of our business is also to Canada and the Caribbean, but the US is huge. Florida is a massive area for us. Easter's huge number of arrivals, so we're dealing with all the repacks, the refunds, but I am just incredibly impressed at how adaptable my team has been in coping with all that's going on. And the fact that there is so much administration, you really can't furlough the number of people you'd like to furlough because there's just so much to do. And we've kept the res team going to make sure that they can deal with travel agents. We only sell through the trade. And we've protected the customer service team, so they only work on email, and the res team take all the calls. And we're just focusing entirely on rebooking our summer business and getting it to travel next year.
So let's just talk about, maybe go around and talk about how successful you've been in rebooking then, and what your policy has been around refunds. Obviously, it's been a big bone of contention whether people are offering refunds or if they're offering refund credit notes, or, you know, lots of different options that have been going on and then lots of people have changed their policies as well over the time, because I guess it was just so sudden, and then you needed just some time to work through things. So perhaps tell us what you've been offering and how what the take up has been from your customers. Paul, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. You know, this is the big thing that everyone's talking about, and you know, I make no bones about it. We're a small family-owned business, a medium-sized family-owned business. Guess what? We don't want to give money back if we don't have to. But equally, we're decent. We know the law and we know the PTRs. So we are encouraging people to rebook, of course. We're encouraging people to accept refund credit notes. But of course, if those options don't suit our customers, and importantly, don't suit our agents who are dealing with those customers, we are offering no quibble refunds. I think it's a testament to how well my team is handling it is so far, and this is changing all the time. Our success rate for rebooking and refund credit notes is standing at 72%.
Wow, okay.
And that is high, and you know, but that can change, and I'm not being complacent, and we all know, everyone on this call knows that some of those things you think have been put to bed can come back and haunt you, but because people trust us. I believe we're achieving that because of trust. And I think it's also important for us to remember that that percentage of people who we have refunded, they're not lost either. Well, we think we're going to get them back. They wanted a holiday with Caribtours before, and I think if we've handled this right, and I believe we are handling it right, they will want again. All they're saying to us is, no, I'd be more comfortable to have my money back at the moment. Thank you very much.
When you say it can come back to haunt you, we have heard, I don't know what you mean by that, because we have heard people saying that originally the customer would accept the refund credit note, but then they've read about or been worried that perhaps that's not going to be protected, and if the company was default, so then they've come back and gone, oh, I accepted it, but now I don't want it, I want my money.
And that's what I mean, and that's kind of what I mean. You know, all of our teams, I suppose, are fighting battles every single day, and some battles we think have been put to bed, but they re-emerge, and that's fine, because people seem to have a reluctance to argue with their insurance company as much as they will with ours. But so that 72%, it's a conditional 72%, and as this crisis goes on, the longer it goes on, I think everyone in this call would agree, it's harder. It's getting harder.
Yeah, and how far have you cancelled out to, Paul?
We're doing a rolling month. We anticipated the government's rather loose, indefinite phrase as a rolling 30 days. So I don't know what today is. I've lost track. Is it July yet? I think it's. I think if today is the 7th or the 8th of May, that we're going to the 7th or 8th of June.
Right. Okay. Yes, the indefinite term was not particularly helpful, was it? It's quite loose. Let's bring Debbie and Guy in. What's been your success rate, I guess we should call it, in terms of rebooks or acceptance of refund credit notes, if you've been offering those?
Obviously, our first thing has been rebooking, but as sort of tailor-made specialists, that has been a hard task, because all our holidays are individually crafted, can be 4 or 5 different centres, multi-country, and a lot of it is not even on sale yet for next year, especially with airlines. So that has been one of our challenges. Also, we've been faced with airlines not refunding as well and only issuing credit notes, and that has definitely hampered our ability to deal with some of our clients who don't necessarily want to rebook the same destination. And if they want a refund and the airline's not refunding, that's a problem as well. And I think we've all been very frustrated by the PTRs and the hope that we had at the beginning that they were going to be relaxed, and the promises. Have
you given up on that hope now, Debbie, or do you?
I've probably given up that they're going to be relaxed completely in the sense that, but we're very much hopeful that we're still going to get some support on the reassurance of refund credit notes and the timeline for refunds. That's where we really need the support. Also, I mean, going slightly off, but on the furloughing as well, I think we definitely need more support on that, because as been so rightly said, we can't furlough staff that we need to rebook people's holidays. And you know, we work very closely with Jersey, as you said before. They've got a scheme whereby that in Jersey, the hospitality staff, they're actually being paid. The government is paying 80% of their wages, whether they're working or not.
And they're allowed to work as well.
And they're allowed to work. They've recognised that hospitality is a separate case. So we
do you have any hope that the government will recognise that travel and tourism and hospitality is, you know, not necessarily key workers, but crucial workers?
I think so, and there are some good encouraging signs coming out. I think, as is so often the case, the government has got so many things to worry about that travel, as always, is never given high enough priority. So understandably, they're dealing with, you know, health and safety as and that seems to be consuming most of what they're doing, and other sectors aren't getting the attention they need early enough.
Okay. And if they aren't to extend the furlough scheme or to bring in something whereby, like you say, Jersey are doing, what would that mean?
Well, it's going to mean that we're going to have to look very seriously at the future, and there's so many different things connected. It does depend when this indefinite ban moves. I mean, it is quite encouraging now. Destinations are starting to prepare to talk about reopening. So there's so many factors within that.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard to say. But yeah, I'm confident that at some point there is going to be recognition that hospitality will be treated differently, and that will all give us a little bit more time to get our ducks in line and to work out how we can come out of it. Okay.
Do you share that confidence, Guy? You mentioned the furlough scheme and how it's not really appropriate for travel, just as Debbie's saying. What's your view?
Well, the mood music coming out the Treasury at the moment seems that they're not going to just cut it off on the 30th of June. There's some talk of it being phased so that they might drop it to 60% and 40%. Clearly, you know, in an industry that's not renowned for big margins, the opportunity for companies to try and make up the difference between 60% and 40% and 100% of wages is probably not going to be practical, at which point staff may start to vote with their feet and decide that they have to try and get a job elsewhere. It's the uncertainty that is causing, you know, I think, all the anxiety throughout the organisation and throughout the whole industry, because people are hanging on, waiting for things to improve and worrying about when the furlough scheme may change or come to an end. Just picking up on your earlier question about refunds.
Yeah.
The first thing I'll say, and I'll go out on a limb here, because I know that right now, both externally and internally, APTA have been in for a good kicking, I think is probably the expression that I would use. But in the absence of any kind of lead from the government, they have had to fill a void in terms of trying to find a path forward. And I think they have been absolutely magnificent. There has never been a year when I am happier to pay my subscription to ABTA. I think that they've really gone out there and done the very best that they can. And I know that's not a universal view held by everyone within the industry.
I mean, it isn't a universal view, but that, you know, there are some people who don't agree with that. But why do you say that then? You're impressed with the refund credit note idea? Are you comfortable with all the deadlines? Because that's been a bone of contention, hasn't it, around how, you know, the expiry of these deadlines and when refunds would have to be paid by. So why are you so happy with it?
Okay, because ultimately they are a trade association. They've always had a fairly difficult path to tread in both representing consumers' interests over the years and the travel industry that has quite a broad church. But in this particular situation and this incredible crisis we're trying to manage through, in the end, they have become and have had to fight more for the trade. And that hasn't necessarily been in the interests, the short-term interests of consumers. But in fact, they are fighting for consumers because they've been working with the CAA behind the scenes to try and make sure the things that they're recommending are giving consumers protection. And the refund credit notes, for those of us who renewed our ATOL licenses recently, means that our refund credit notes are protected all the way through to 31 March. So if anything ever happens to us, the customer's money is protected. And I think that was a very creative approach. And ultimately, if ABTA had gone for a shorter refund cycle, you would have seen people toppling over already in the travel business. They'd be going down like dominoes. And ABTA have also gone out and said, look, even if you issue a refund credit note, if the customer wants to turn that into cash and change their minds, they're entitled to do so. And that's exactly what we're doing. So we've managed to rebook about 50% of our summer program, moved it to next year. I think we pretty much invented the concept of what is now known as advanced registration. So we sell beyond system range and we guarantee the prices. It's just something we've always done and we know how to do it. And of the 50% that didn't want to rebook, about half have accepted refund credit notes and the rest are being processed for cash refunds. And we've already been refunding customers where our suppliers have refunded us.
Right, so you're not waiting to that 31st of March deadline 2021 at all? Because I think that's been one of the issues, people saying, oh, customers need their money back before then. But actually it was only, that's the expiry of the deadline. It's not when they're suggesting you actually make the refund.
Yeah, we will refund as soon as we've got the money. But as an organisation, we can't afford to fund refunds where we haven't had the refund back. And that's frustrating because we know it's our legal responsibility to do so in 14 days. We're not shying away from that. And in fact, we put a consumer-facing page up on our website and asked agents to guide customers to it that introduces the customer to who we are, because sometimes they don't know, and that we have a contract with them, and that we are responsible for refunding, and that they shouldn't ask their agent for a refund, because we are really conscious that the agents are really in the firing line.
Absolutely.
They have to deal with customers. Right. And we're trying to really support them by taking the heat ourselves.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I imagine the agent reaction has been very positive to that, where you've been trying to help them, as you say, take that heat off.
Yeah.
Okay, you were nodding there, Paul. Is that something you've, I guess you've been, you work very closely with the trade as well. So how's that engagement with the trade been? I mean, I asked that as well because when we've had agents on here and they've not, it's not in any way directed at any of your three brands, but one of their frustrations was that a lot of operators had to furlough so many staff. They weren't getting the support from the teams and things.
And that's it.
Quite an issue.
And I think my view on that is, talk about USAirtours or Premier Holidays or Caribtours. I think if agents like you and trust you in normal times, they're going to, if you carry on giving them what they need, that trust will carry through to a crisis. And clearly, I mean, I've got quite a few of my people who've taken the sacrifice for the team. I've got maybe 50% of my guys on furlough. The other 50% who are working harder than ever. They're working twice as hard for less money. So everyone on my team is taking some real pain. but they know why they're doing it, and we're all on the same page. It's brought us closer together, and I think it's allowing us. I mean, I'd rather not be tested in this way, but it's allowing us to show what we're capable of. And they try, and I'm not complacent about it, and we can slip up at any time. But we take what we do seriously. The agents trust us. They know we're decent. We care. We care, and we care about supporting them. I read the copy on Guy's website page yesterday, actually. This Guy and I haven't met before, and I was just swatting up. And it's excellent. You're taking the heat off the agents. You're taking responsibility, Guy, because it is your responsibility. And my belief is, when this is all over, and it will be, it will be, we don't know when, but it will be over. We are putting money in the bank. We're putting credit in the bank here for our dedication and our trustworthiness, our decency and our humanity, whether that's helping agents, whether it's doing the right thing with clients as well. That's what I believe. But yeah, our story will be very similar to Guy, and we're getting an encouraging amount of new business. I mean, believe me, it's not flowing through the doors, but this week we've done £100,000 worth of Caribbean business, albeit for next year.
Yeah.
So
okay, well, let's come on to the new business, but just before we move on from the rebooks, because the other issue I just wanted to ask about, I mean, Debbie, you mentioned it briefly there, because you're saying it's hard to rebook because the flights aren't listed yet, you can't get the flights. But the other issue that some agents have been reporting is that they're trying to rebook the customer, and then they're finding that the prices have gone up.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know whether that's the tour operators putting the price up, or are you at the mercy of the hoteliers?
Absolutely.
I'm being devil's advocate, but, you know, there are definitely instances, and we've been, you know, I've seen it, you know, examples where they're accepting this credit note, or, you know, or happy to rebook, but then they can't get the same kind of holiday because it's more expensive. You're nodding.
Yeah, I mean, it's predominantly the down to the airlines. You know, capacity is going to be cut. The airlines, they might just be putting out almost speculative pricing for these early stages before the special offers come into place. We're getting some amazing deals on the ground, especially in the Channel Islands, in the Far East, which will help rebooking and will help clinch the sale. In many cases, the airline prices are more than people have paid this year, so that is definitely going to be a challenge. I mean, in time that might even out, but at the moment we can only go with the prices that are in the system, and some of them, not all, some of them are higher than people have paid this year,
and so much higher that it deters people from rebooking.
In some cases, yeah.
And I think for us, sorry Debbie, I think this is right. For us, it's less about the airlines, it's more about the suppliers. And we sell quite expensive holidays. Our average booking value is £10,500. So the ground portion of that is possibly 60% of the holiday cost. And in our view, we are working very closely with our Caribbean hoteliers especially. They haven't caught up yet with that reality. They're still working on those 2021 rates, which was set 3 months ago. And I just think, I have every faith that with enough negotiating by people like us, that there will be a recalibration of those rates. At the moment, it's clearly a very difficult message to say to someone, your holiday that was £10,000 last month, that we wouldn't let you go on, is now 12 grand, is going to be a problem. So that's the phase we're in now, Debbie. We are going to every single hotel with every past booking that's on credit note to say, we've got these people coming down, you need to do the right thing. So
you're asking them to honour the 2020 rate.
Get on the front foot with it, because agents will not swallow that. Those refund credit notes will turn into refunds very quickly.
Is that happening in the US market, Guy? Are you experiencing the sort of increase in prices that's putting people off rebooking?
Not so much. The US market, I mean, obviously it's a vast market, and different states are handling things in a different way. You know, right now New York has got an entirely different challenge to somewhere like California, just in terms of the fact that, you know, the number of cases that they've got, and the whole system is upside down. In the past, where there's been big challenges like 9/11 in the US, the US domestic market tended to stay at home, that they didn't travel within the US boundaries. That made hoteliers and other ground suppliers even more dependent on international business.
Right.
And I don't see that changing. I think the Americans will probably stay at home, and international tour operators will be extremely welcomed into the US once we work out we can fly there.
Yeah, that's quite important. Okay, all right. I wanted to just, before we move on from hotels, Paul, I don't know if anyone saw, but we ran a story from you, Paul, on our news alert this morning. And this is regarding a slightly different issue, but it's to do with, well, you tell us what your concern is, and it's to do with the Caribbean Hotel Association, and you wanting them to, I guess, name and shame the...
Yeah, I think that's it. I haven't actually read the article. I've had lots of text.
Very good, very good.
I think it was Holly wrote it. I've had lots of texts saying, well said, Paul, so I'm assuming it's just a small issue. I think this isn't for me about the Caribbean, and it's not about the Caribbean Hotel Association. I believe it's about the distribution chain that we're all in, and it's reliant on trust and decency and people honouring their contracts. And my business relies on customers paying their travel agents on time, those travel agents paying me on time, me paying my suppliers on time, and it works. And if any part of that chain stops, it falls over. It's a very obvious thing to say. It's my understanding, and it's that the Caribbean is getting a real pasting from some large operators who for their own good reasons, and I can't comment on why they're doing it, but are withholding funds or changing payment terms. Now, I get it. That's nothing to do with me. But the Caribbean Hotel Association has been quite vocal, and their press releases and their comments are about operators are not paying their bills. That's all, operators. And it's just not bloody fair. Most operators I speak to are paying their bills. We're doing the right thing.
So you just don't want to be tarred with the same brush.
And it's incredibly important, Lucy, and I've got to tell you why. The trust that exists between all of us in this distribution chain is important, and the transactions between us, that's what keeps all of this moving. And I just feel strongly, I think if someone does the wrong thing, you need to call out the person who's done the wrong thing, not everybody else. So yeah, that was
and you're right, Paul. We've reported on it, you know, in Spain, as it's not just you know, specific to the Caribbean. I think that we've seen instances where that's happening, and I guess, you know, as you say, you don't want to be lumped in with those.
And that's what it is, and it isn't a Caribtours thing, because I know we're not lumped in. It's kind of everyone I speak to. One of the things, Guy and Debbie, you must be speaking to your competitors more in the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks than you've ever done before, because, you know, we're all swapping notes. We all know what we're all doing, and I just feel that if people are breaking their contracts, they should probably be called out for breaking their contracts. That was my point, Liz.
Okay, we just wanted you to be able to air it. That's fine. Now, look, I'm conscious of time, and I want to move on to how we're going to emerge from this lockdown, how we're going to start things moving again. And obviously, that's dependent on government guidance. We know that. But Debbie, you just said there you're starting to get some indication from the destinations that you travel to that they are at least getting prepared. So tell me, and perhaps look around to see what, you know, what's happening in destination or within your business. How are you getting ready for coming out?
Okay. Well, I mean, just to go back slightly, just to touch on what you said earlier about engagement. I mean, we took the decision early on to retain skeleton staff within marketing as well as our sales managers. We felt it was important to keep sales managers in place to support their agents through this and to help them deal with particular issues surrounding refunds. So because we've had that sort of interaction with the trade right from the beginning, we've also been able to gauge the level of interest in inspiring people as well as talking about 2021, which we felt was the safest thing to do. So really from day one of this, we've still kept our inspirational messages up there, predominantly through social media and our e-marketing, and we've got some really amazing feedback from agents because they've been able to share it to keep their customers engaged. So that has definitely been going on at a sort of low level throughout, and that's gone down, as I say, really well. We've always had a selection of 2021 offers as well. Again, a lot of customers are actually using this time to plan holidays, to be inspired. They might not be quite ready to book. I mean, as I said earlier, there are a few booking, but it is only a few. So that has been in place from the beginning, and that will continue to ramp up, hopefully when we get some more encouraging signs over the weekend of a slight ease on lockdown and a slight return to something approaching normality. But yeah, we are having conversations with destinations, and some are thinking autumn, later in the summer. So we're just getting ready for multiple scenarios of when things could open, and being very flexible and prepared to work very quickly with the one. I mean, for us, we're having a UK programme and the Channel Islands. We feel that is probably going to be one of the first things to open up, and we have had a lot of agents contact us with that and say, we haven't really seriously considered it before. What do we need to do to get our ducks in order? So for us, that's definitely an important part of the moving out of this.
I was wondering about the Channel Islands programme, really, because yes, you'd think it's a domestic programme, but of course you've still got to get on a plane or a ferry to get there.
Yeah.
So do you think people will be worried about that, or you think that will, I think it could be seen as similar to going to the Med, I guess. You've got to get on a plane, but do you think that psychologically people will be happier staying in the UK?
Yeah, I think there's a psychological thing. I think with all of this, we're going to see some people are going to be much more gung-ho than others, and some people will be prepared to get on planes much earlier than others, like with everything. But we've also got the Isle of Wight, the Isle of Scilly, the Isle of Man. Again, a lot of you need a ferry or a flight still, but I think those destinations will bounce back slightly earlier.
Okay, all right. Guy, what about you in terms? I know the US is a big place, and I know you've got Canada and the Caribbean as well. So have you had? I'm sure you're talking to people all the time. Where are you thinking might come back first? I mean, Florida, you said, is massive for you, but will families be wanting to go there, especially if we don't know what's happening with the theme parks?
Yeah, we've had a lot of internal discussion about what products are going to sell well once we get back to, when people are starting to book. And we are, as Paul said, we are taking a new business for next year. Florida traditionally tends to sell well a long way out.
Right.
And that's mainly because you're going to take children. It's difficult to take children out of school, and therefore you have to book way ahead to get the dates that you want. So it wouldn't be unusual for us to not only be selling Orlando for 2021, we're getting inquiries for 2022. That isn't that unusual. And again, we find a way of selling it and guaranteeing the price, and agents know that we know what we're doing. It's a trust thing. But I'm also not I'm not going to think that everything is just going to return to a relative normality. I think even when things do start to book again, I think we are going to be in recessionary times. And just as agents are contacting Debbie to think about selling product that they wouldn't normally sell because everyone's got to think creatively, we are also talking to DMCs around the world about other destinations that we might sell, because we don't necessarily want all of our eggs in one basket. We may have to find a sub-brand.
I know. Well, Paul's managed it. He's had a name with the Caribbean in it, but he's managed to go into
Honestly, Guy, it's amazing. No one notices. Yeah.
On that basis, I might not have to bother with a sub-brand, but have that scoop later, Lucy.
Yes, absolutely. So, and are you at a stage where you could sort of talk about what kind of? Are you talking more short haul, or are you? Is it that different to what you've been traditionally doing?
Well, to be honest, nothing's off the table. But at the moment, we are trying to stay in the long haul tailor-made arena. That's the thing that we do well. Obviously, we have a massive amount of experience of selling North America and the Caribbean. But I also have lots of staff that, had a life before USAirtours and sold other things.
Right.
And if I want to tap into their knowledge, then there are opportunities for us to sell other parts of the world. And, picking up on what Paul said earlier, we have strong relationships with agents and they trust us. And if they are they're able to pick up the phone and speak to the same person that they spoke to last year and the year before, then they will trust those individuals to create tailor-made itineraries to other parts of the world.
Great, absolutely. And Paul, what about you? I mean, obviously people have said actually that the Caribbean, you know, I mean, they closed their borders very quickly, the Caribbean, didn't they? They have done well, I guess, in that respect in terms of the virus. But and people have said, because it's, you know, if you can get to quite remote parts of it, that could be quite attractive post the pandemic. So what's your feeling?
All of the noises that are coming out of the Caribbean at the moment, and it's not official, but you will have heard them, I'm sure. There seems to be an awful lot of positive noises about reopening and what plans are in place. It's kind of difficult to know. I think next year will be a very tough year. We'll be smaller. We'll all be smaller. Everyone on this call will be smaller next year, and we'll have to deal with that. But yeah, the Caribbean, I believe, has handled the situation with incredible skill. I mean, you know, when you look around the whole world, so I think what they are talking about, it may come back sooner. The Caribbean seems to have been off the radar in terms of all of the negativity which has been all around the world. So that's a positive thing. But yeah, we're not naive. World won't be normal for a little while yet. There's a lot of uncertainty, but people will rebook, will be smaller next year. And I think a real opportunity for us. I think one of the things that we've noticed, forget travel. Honestly, I think people have realised how important grandparents are in a family. You know that. I really do think people, obviously, we've always known that. And I think going on holiday with your grandparents just as soon as you can, and you know, multi-generational isn't a new thing, I know that. But I think this pandemic has taught everybody how much they need and how important that generation are. So I think there's a lot of good will come out of this. And yeah, we'll see. Next year, we did diversify a few years ago, and I thank God we did. We have a European program, we have an Indian Ocean program, Caribbean still our mainstay, and I think next year will be smaller, but.
And do you think you'll get? I mean, I know you say you took 100 grand for 2021 last week, but do you anticipate getting anything from the rest of this summer in your European program?
Well, like everybody else, we had to resupply a lot of information to the CAA in the last few weeks. So I can tell you what the numbers are. I anticipated no business in this quarter, April, May and June. No. I anticipated a fraction of business in the following quarter, which is August and September. So that's what I think. And then I think it's game on for October onwards.
Is when obviously is the season for the Caribbean. So that's when you're thinking really you might see.
Yeah, but equally, we're not being naive about it. And it's so important. And this is affecting so many people's lives in so many profound ways. I think I'm gearing us up. We'll be here to look after those holidays when people are ready to book. But 2020 is pretty much gone.
Yeah, okay. Finally then, because we're running out of time, but just to go round, what you see is, you know, Paul said that it will be better ultimately. I mean, I wonder what you think is your biggest immediate challenge and what you see as your, if there is any opportunity in all of this. We'll start with you, Debbie.
Definitely an opportunity. And as Guy said, we're looking at product closer to home as well. So yeah, there will be opportunity. We've also had some great conversations with agents who've said we know who will support coming out of this, the people that have supported us during it and the people that have been there. So I think there will definitely be opportunities there. And we've formed some strong bonds with suppliers in these crises. So there will definitely be opportunities coming out. But we've got to think things differently, and we'll be thinking fast and being very dynamic in how we do things. So yeah, the challenge really now, I think the biggest challenge is the uncertainty of when and where we're going to do it, how that's going to relate to furloughing, what airlines are going to be here, and are the ones that gave us credit notes even going to be around to fulfill them. So yeah, the uncertainty of so many different
crucial few weeks and months to get to these decisions. You're nodding, Guy.
Yes, well, you know, it's kind of business 101. There are very few, if any, travel companies right now that are not trading at a daily loss. And so it's about sensible business management. It's about keeping your costs down to an absolute minimum until we can buy ourselves some time and the wheels start to turn again as far as travel is concerned. So, you know, there's still some tough decisions to be made, and it's a very worrying time, certainly for staff, but we will get through this, and we'll get to the point, as we did after 9/11, when 3 months after 9/11, we had half the staff that were working for us. In the following months, we were able to re-recruit many of them, and I'm sure that's going to happen again.
Okay, and actually, just very specifically for you two, Virgin coming out of Gatwick, is that a big problem for you both? Sorry, well, all of you actually, if you're doing American, Caribbean.
I think for us, I'm still trying to work out whether it's going to be a problem or not. I hope not. If I read it right, and if I read what Shay has said in his most recent correspondence, I think they're doing a really sensible thing. They're operating out of 2 major hubs. They need to consolidate their operations, whether that's cleaning, catering, baggage handling, the whole works. So I view it as just as a pragmatic approach to that. I am desperate to receive reassurance that the Caribbean will still be one of their routes, but I believe it will be. I believe I think the Caribbean, for us, of course, Florida more so, has played such a huge, important part in the success of Virgin. So I'm hoping it won't be a problem, but it's nerve-wracking. I feel sorry for the people at Gatwick. I feel incredibly sorry for the people at Gatwick, and all the people at Virgin, especially, who are going through. They're going through a horrible time. But I'm hoping, maybe naively, but I'm hoping that the Caribbean will be okay.
All right. Well, listen, I think we're out of time, everyone. But listen, it's been brilliant to talk to you. Clearly some challenges ahead. And as we said, Debbie, some crunch decisions, in the coming weeks. But it's real optimism as well from you all. Great to know that you think it's all going to come back eventually, albeit in a different form. But it sounds like you've been doing a fantastic job with your agent partners, and we wish you all the best, all 3 of your brands. So thank you very much for taking the time. To Guy from USAirtours, to Debbie from Premier Holidays, and to Paul from Caribtours. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all very much.
Bye now.